Hello, this is Alan Boyd again. Abolish Property Taxes Part 2. Not all states had the ability, the way Illinois did, to raise property taxes over the last 4 decades. We had a large city and have attracted many large companies into the state that pay high salaries. In middle America, voters couldn't just vote for a politician that wants to make their state look more like Illinois and start to raise the cost of living because they do not have the property tax base to do it. People start families earlier in middle America and the South, and it's less expensive to do so than in the North or a place like Illinois, New York, New Jersey. Southern states oftentimes do not allow property taxes to pay for education. This is based on biblical principles and it protects middle America from becoming more like Illinois or New York. The problem is that middle America did not try and attempt to end the federal tax deduction for property taxes when electing United States congressional leaders. So the nation as a whole has been moving in the direction that Illinois and New York are moving, and that is towards a higher cost of living. Places like the South have been changing much slower, and they seem to be proud of that. The Christian Coalition gave politicians 100% ratings that supported a federal tax deduction. They have missed the elephant in the room. It appears that middle America avoided being liberalized in the short run by electing people like Ronald Reagan. They were given more independence. The catch was the country as a whole would be liberalized and would be slowly drawing in places like middle America. Let's face it, the South has always been moving in the same direction as the North, never the other way around, with the exception of some gun laws. It is not hard to understand how America has become the liberal country it is today. In my mind, it was guaranteed. Republicans were able to appeal to states with lower property taxes and cost of housing. This helped George W. Bush win the White House in 2000. The George W. Bush win came from states with lower property taxes and lower cost of living. Utah supported Bush and had lower property taxes and a high median home price, making it an outlier statistically. When you compare the states that voted for Bush to New York, New Jersey, and Illinois, you can see that they are more conservative on social issues and have a lower cost of living. This strategy won again for Bush in 2004. Bush ran heavily on an anti-gay marriage amendment, even though the country as a whole had continued to move to the left on gay issues. Now the country has shifted further, making the same strategy impossible. As I said, Barry Goldwater was the true founder of modern day American conservatism. The moral majority just added social values to win elections only. Bush's message appealed to the states that he won, and other Republican leaders went along for his message with his message for a while and then dumped it. Bush gave tax cuts to everyone, including families that made $40,000 or less, so that now that many of them paid no federal taxes at all. People who made $40,000 or less. This appealed to middle America. A white couple in middle America might do the same type of work as a white couple in Chicagoland. Both vote from their pocketbooks and end up supporting different parties. That is because unions are not very strong in middle America and the cost of living is low. So when families voted for Bush in middle America, they were voting in favor of their own finances. Voting on the conservative side of social issues might make a person feel good. While the country elected Reagan Bush for president 20 out of 28 years, the country never really moved to the right on social issues. On top of that, George W. Bush increased the size of government and the national debt while being criticized by the majority of his own supporters. Most who voted for him identified as small government types and still do today. They need a reality check. We have gone around this a million times, but people are still set in their ways of thinking that they are all about personal responsibility and pulling yourself up. If we ever want to lower the number of entitlements, we need to first deal with the cost of living, and that would mean getting rid of property taxes. What we are left with is the upper middle class voters taking pride that when they vote Republican, that they are still paying more than their fair share of federal taxes. After all, over half the country pays no or very little federal taxes. So rather than seeing themselves as connected and making more than they should off of an unfair institutional high cost of living, they look at who is paying the taxes. They just look at that. They just look at the taxes paid, ignoring the context. Remember Mitt Romney's 47% comment to appeal to them that backfired? Republicans in middle America who paid no or very little taxes oftentimes pride themselves that they do not receive food stamps or welfare, nor are they voting to expand those programs so that they can receive them. While this may be true, they are still voting themselves a tax cut in parts of the country that do not have the option of raising property taxes to the roof. The upper middle class Republicans take pride in that they are pulling more of their fair share than middle American Republicans, while the middle American Republicans take pride they are not on public assistance, even though they don't pay very much, if anything, in federal taxes. Pretty funny, and the Republicans have been very successful promoting this mentality and winning. To recap a few points, as a result of property taxes, we have never dealt, or at least some people have never dealt with race in this country because they've been shielded from it. Many well-off have been shielded from many of the racial problems. The amount spent on education varies greatly. If conservatives are so conservative, then why don't they vote for less money to be used out of property taxes to fund education, out of their own, from their own taxes, property taxes, and pay for additional tutors out of their own pockets? Again, the pro-life movement has ignored that the higher cost of living in America has helped put banning abortion out of reach because more Americans think without the choice the country would be in a greater mess, than like it would have been back in 1973. They avoid this reality because many pro-life voters have helped drive up the cost of living by voting Republican. When I was in my 20s, before I discovered the negative effects of property taxes have on a society's economic justice for the family, I focused on controlling big corporations, an anti-corporatist. I figured the Bible set up three institutions, the family, state, and church, and that our society gave most of the power to individuals and corporations. I am a Christian anti-corporatist who likes to believe that I believe in a lot of free capitalism, believe it or not. For example, I do not believe in that large corporations should be allowed to hire all the electricians and plumbers, giving them a control of the market. I'm saying if they wanted to do that someday. I would limit the number of electricians or plumbers that they could be hired by each company to support small businesses that are independent of large corporations, except for large projects or something like that. This is just one example of hundreds of what I would do. It's one way I protect us from the big corporations. I just say, hey, we got this extra entity in here. We need to limit, pass laws to protect ourselves. If someone accused me of not believing in free markets, I would say that corporations are a man-made legal institution, and if you want freedom so badly, then get rid of them. Of course, freedom of capitalism is not their goal. It is more money and power. The religious right believes there should be corporations, and for the government to restrict them is not what God set the government up to do. True, but it needs to be examined in the context that corporations now exist and were not in the Bible. I am an anti-corporatist, but have not focused on this in this article because many people attack big corporations and not property taxes, so I focused on the latter. Thanks a lot for listening to part 2 of AbolishPropertyTaxes.com. Take care and have a great day. Bye.